Welcome to Portals of Perception. We are delighted you have found us. You can join the Portals of Perception network on the site by subscribing and becoming a member. And you can attend one of our events. You can like us in all media channels, and you're welcome to share our posts with others. Become part of a global network that explores all sorts of fascinating questions at this time. Thank you. A propelling inspiration for the Portals endeavor is that we seek to encourage the next generation of leaders, people who intuit the deeper change underway and are endeavoring to step into the transformation arena and lead. There are next generation leaders emerging in all the core domains of life: education, health and well-being, science and policy, diplomacy, art, and business and entrepreneurship, and next generation leaders in the inner development realms of emergent communities and the work of presence. The Portals Project is interested to develop conversations with leaders in all these fields to explore and discover the new operating system that's emerging at the frontiers of these fields of human expression. Today, I'm speaking with Forrest Wilson as part of a series of conversations with next generation leaders. Forrest facilitates communities to come into coherence through practicing presence. The propulsion of his endeavor is to deepen in our essential wholeness as a way of sourcing our emerging future. We want to explore what that means and what are some of the core practices that Forrest applies. So let's dive in at the deep end first. Forrest, it's good to have you here.
Hey, Aviv, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with you.
How would you describe your core interest, your core inquiry, and the journey that brought you to these inquiries?
Gosh, what a beautiful question. So much of it you articulated in the invitation that you opened up this segment with. I mean, a huge part of it for me is centered in healing. You're talking about a new operating system, and as I have become aware of the transition that we're in collectively as a species in terms of operating systems and wandering into our emerging future, it's become evident to me that healing is an integral part of that process. And so I find myself fascinated by the frontier and the leading edge, and what is our emerging future? What is this new world that wants to be born with and through us right now? And then also in the process of getting there, doing the healing work, the trauma work, going back and looking at the hundreds of thousands of years of humanity and our own, as individuals, our own life experience or our generational experience coming through our family lineages, and saying, okay, where can we go back and take the best parts? And also what moments in space and time were we not able to be fully present with because they were too much for us to be present with in the moment they were happening, and how can we fully metabolize those experiences now, and in that open up the possibility for new possibilities to manifest right in front of our eyes.
That's beautiful. Totally beautiful. So let's proceed into the now, and then if we need, go up and down the timeline. What do you believe is the transition that we are in right now?
Well, if you look at these major inflection points in human history, we had the agrarian revolution, the industrial revolution, then the information age with the invention of the internet. And these are times when the meaning-making system, the operating system of human consciousness shifted. And right now, my theory and a lot of people's theories is that we're in the consciousness revolution and the healing revolution. And so to me, a lot of questions that we are being invited into as a species is, um, what is it like to coexist peacefully with each other as a humanity, right? And what does it look like for us to coexist peacefully with all life and our planet? When we take a wider time horizon and we start to think about the lives of our grandchildren or great grandchildren or 7 generations ahead, which I know you and I have connected around our um, just a curiosity of what's it like to create, what kind of world do we want to create for the generations to come. We really need to shift the way that we're acting as a species and come into more coherence with other forms of life and the planet itself, if there's going to be one for future generations to live on. So the transition we're in is saying, okay, what world do we want to create? What world do we want to live in? And then in that, being invited into where did we go wrong, or where did we not develop in the ways that we could have been the healthiest? Maybe wrong is not the most helpful word, but where could we have developed more health in a more healthy way, and can we go back and sort of rewire the code a little bit, or create new code that's more functional?
And so, by way of retracing just a bit, how would you narrate at a high level the journey story that brought you to this kind of efficacy and clarity that we are indeed experiencing a new world that's trying to emerge and be born through us as individuals and communities, and that perhaps the cause or the calling of this time is to be engaged in this co-creative process, co-creative act? What's the journey that brought you to, at what point do you say, this is what I sense that I'm being called to participate in? How do you get to that threshold?
Yeah, again, it's a beautiful question. I mean, it is a lifelong inquiry, right? Like, we're all in this game of wondering into what in the heck is this life about. And I certainly faced an existential crisis in my later teen years and in college. And then when I was 24 years old, my father passed away, which was a really catalyzing experience for me. And I was coming off of having lived abroad in Singapore and then in Dubai, and having a pretty successful corporate career fresh out of college. And I remember sitting down with a friend and saying, I feel like I've achieved everything I'm supposed to achieve. Right. And then my father passed away, and I really started to think about deeply sit with daily, just the fact that I'm going to pass away too one day. And I would visualize who's going to be at my funeral and what did I want them to say. And at the time, I wasn't crazy about what I thought people might say about me at my funeral. And so I really started to dig deep and say, okay, how can I be the change I want to see in the world, and really take on the work to heal and to look at where I did things that I wasn't happy I did, where I could be more mature, and then really in that ask, where can I be of service to the larger whole, in humanity, in consciousness, in the world, and having this profound sense of sort of the like, I'm nobody, I'm just a guy, and like what I do matters. There's this meaning, like this irrelevance and also deep relevance of that really came online for me. And in wondering into, okay, what do I want to create, and starting to think about my own funeral. I mean, I'm already 70, 80, who knows, maybe 100 years, 150 years out in the future, and going, well, wait a minute, what's the world even going to look like then? And starting to reverse engineer the thoughts of wait, like something's got to shift here. This isn't. I don't want to just die and be told I was a good CEO or donated some money or something. Like, we need to heal, and my individual journey has deeply informed what it seems like we're up to collectively right now, which is that at some point, part of our continued evolution and growth is that we need to turn towards our pain, and that becomes our continued entree for growth and evolution. So that was a lot of my 20s, was personal exploration, following my own curiosities, seeing what is the life my soul was calling for me. And in that, opening up to all the wounds and pain and traumas that hadn't been, that have been hiding in the back doors of the back rooms of my psyche and being. So.
And what happened then, and where did that lead you to?
It led me all over the world. I mean, I went on quite the journey, traveling the world and studying with healers and mystics and shamans and intuitives and energy workers, and visiting the I call them the energetic capitals of the world, right? Like Bali or India or Mount Shasta, and going to these places where I felt called. I started to live my life going where I felt called to go. And then got into work in with a really good psychotherapist, and really studying consciousness and body work. I do body work, and I'm a biomechanics practitioner. So healing through the body, mind, soul, being, becoming increasingly aware of how complex we are as humans and as beings. And just on a self-guided, like, I'd call it a gap year, but it was a lot longer than a year. And just going wherever that unnameable pull calls us. And that's led me right here, talking to you. So here we are.
And what are some of the salient intuitions that found you through those journeys and inquiries, and are informing you today? You already spoke to some of these. I'd like you to talk a little more about the new world that you are sensing that's trying to be birthed through us, and what is it you're seeing? What is it you're experiencing? What is it you're intuiting? What is the nature of that impulse in the way it is exercising itself through you?
I feel like I'm going to catch a sliver of an answer to that question. Like, there is a whole, so much to see from so many angles, and I'm just going to pick one little, one little perspective to perceive through. But a few things that come online for me. First of all, we're each individual is at a different place in our own evolution across humanity, and each collective is at a different place in evolution, right? So what's going to unfold in different parts of the world is going to look differently based on where we are. I'm currently in Savannah, Georgia, in the United States. It seems to me like what's next for the United States is we're going to sit down and we're going to start to talk to each other. Hopefully, this is what's going to happen. Is we're going to sit down, and a lot of the polarized voices in our culture and our collective are going to sit down. I dream of these roundtables where you have a table of unconditional love, where all of you is welcome, and we can all put our swords and shields down and talk. And you can have a police officer, a Black Lives Matter protester, a policy writer, community activists, all these different folks come from all different backgrounds and contexts, can sit down and we can have a conversation and say, hey, how is each person trying to help? What does each person want? And how are we gonna get into conversation with each other and start to work together? So to me, the increasing polarization and divisiveness we're having in our culture is just a sign of we're getting ready to start to turn towards each other and say, okay, there got to be other possibilities here. Let's talk. So that's in the United States, right? In sub-Saharan Africa, that might be helpful, and there's likely going to be a different next step in terms of creating basic infrastructure, technology, processes and systems put in place for continued growth and evolution. Now, on the leading edge of consciousness, which is kind of where I'm most fascinated, it's shifting right now. If you look at the World Bank, for example, I've got an article coming out that's called From SDGs to Emerging Probabilities. So SDGs is the World Bank's Sustainable Development Goals. And what I'm actually inviting is a shift in perspective from, instead of problem-oriented consciousness, like let's have zero poverty, right? Or zero hunger. there's a problem there, hunger or poverty, that we're going to go and solve that problem. And I'm saying, let's actually shift in perspective from problem solving to possibility. What's the possibility we want to live in? Well, we want basic survival needs to be met for all human beings across the planet, right? Basic necessities. What would a world look like in which those are met? And if we can just make that slight shift in perspective, a whole new world opens up. We go from this problem-oriented, we need to play problem whack-a-mole consciousness. I mean, problems create more problems, right? And into a creative possibility-oriented consciousness that says, hey, let's all organize ourselves around the inquiry of how can we be happy, healthy, fulfilled human beings, and how can basic survival needs be met for all human beings? And then, I mean, from there, it's like, we could do that today. I mean, that's the thing that blows my mind, is like, we're not lacking resources, we're not lacking technology, we're not doing anything. It's just that the infrastructure and systems we've created aren't created to serve that creative outcome. They're created to serve other creative outcomes. And so I just invite people into a perspective shift. Like, let's look at the world we actually want to create if we could reinvent our planetary systems. So I could talk more about that, but I'll pause there.
Yeah, that's delicious and riveting and rich. So along those lines, you offered a quote on the announcement that we created for the Co-Creating Humanity's Future global Zoom event that we are soon conducting. And you said there, all systems and stories are breaking down all over the planet as we open up and make room for the new world that wants to emerge with and through us. And you're now talking about sampling some of that new world and some of its expression. Mm-hmm. And then you're saying humanity is being invited to take a breath and pause in possibility. And you just gave an example of what it means to pause in possibility and shift from problem focus. That one fraction of a degree shift. It's not a 90 degrees shift. It's not a 180 degrees shift. It's a fraction of a degree shift to possibility and opportunity. And then you're saying, and dream a new world into being together. Mm-hmm. Let's just slow the conversation a little by asking you, first of all, so what are these old stories and old systems that you see breaking down all over the place? And then we'll come back to how can we see through the stories that are breaking down the new stories that are emerging? What is your observation of the stories and the systems that are breaking down?
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, again, like a small sliver would be any system that is rooted in power over people, power over another, power over life. Those systems are breaking down. Systems that aren't in alignment with nature are breaking down. Nature, like Mother Nature, our planet Earth, and also our true nature.